us all together. Lord, we gather in your name as children of a sovereign God. Forever we proclaim, to God be all glory.
Well, good morning. How you doing? It is Monday, July 28th, 2025. Welcome to episode 394 of the Thinking Theologians. We continue our journey through the scriptures. So today, this is going to be posted a little bit earlier in the morning. That way, there's more access to it. I'm just playing around with different times to post this. So today's reading, we are in Isaiah chapter 5 through 8. The title of today is Here I Am, Send Me. The focal scripture we're looking at is in Isaiah 6:8. And this is what it says. Then I heard the voice of the Lord asking, who will I send? Who will go for us? Here I am, send me. So that's what is said today. So today's going to be a little bit longer today. I'm going to give them more of a personal story. And so I don't do that very often. There's every now and then I'll kind of do that, but I'm going to go in more detail than I usually go into today. It's just kind of FYI, because I think it's going to make more sense with this topic and title today. So are you willing to go where the Lord leads you? If not, our hearts are not completely devoted to his will for our lives. And we really have to acknowledge that. If he's telling us to do something, we're not willing to do it, then we have a problem with us. And it's not God's problem, it's our problem. So I'm going to be very transparent today with how God has worked and moved in my life. A little over a year ago, I transitioned from full-time ministry back to the classroom. It was a very difficult decision because my heart is to serve students and to preach the word. I miss being in full-time ministry and serving the local church. I do. I miss it a lot. I miss it tremendously. I miss doing ministry and doing that and preparing messages every week. It just, my heart gets full from doing that. It also gets full from doing ministry in ways that I learned how to do ministry. Now, however, looking back on what God has done, my obedience to him was more important than what I wanted to do at the moment. And I'm going to go more into that here. God delivered me from a very bad situation in leadership. So I left a place where God delivered me from because it was causing me stress and causing me spiritual anguish in a way that it's hard to really to put into words. It was affecting me physically. It was affecting me in so many different ways. He delivered me from a place where ministry was not a priority and where the culture was not open to obedience. And what I mean by that is that things were being done, but ministry wasn't the focus. It was like events were being planned, but ministry wasn't focused. And my heart is to do ministry amongst the people that are outside the church, much more than being stuck in an office and being in meetings and doing things all the day that do that. I'm called to minister to people and minister to students. And so I'm now in a place where my gifts are valued and I'm doing more ministry than I was in the last church setting I was in. Now I have more freedom to do more ministry than I did in the local church setting. God had to make things very bad for me to hear the call of whom shall I send, who will go for us. I had to leave what I wanted to do and go to where he needed me to be in my life. Now, this happened for a few reasons. First, so I could heal from what I witnessed and experienced. And it was, I'm not going to go in details about things, but it was shocking to say the least. And so second, to be reminded what good leadership looks like on a large scale setting. And so I went from a place where poor leadership was to now where I'm in a place where there's phenomenal leadership from believers and unbelievers, where I get to see how it's done and how to treat people and how growth can happen in a different way. And I've experienced it before, but I forgot. And then finally to see firsthand the needs of young people for over 40 hours a week. Being back in the school setting has only given me more of a passion for the next generation, not less. And so it's become one of the greatest teachers I ever could have had, because I thought I understood student ministry, even going from the classroom to full-time ministry. And then COVID happened, a lot of other things happened, but going back into it, things I thought I knew, I really didn't know, and has changed perspective on student ministry of how if I ever go back into full-time student ministry again, which I don't know if God will ever open that door for me. And I don't know if I want to do it that way again. That I was missing out on what ministry is, because when you're in ministry, you can get in a silo, and silos are never good. Especially some churches want silos. They don't want people who are different to come and go, because I treated our Wednesday night activities as evangelism. It was bring anybody and anybody here who is unsaved and unchurched. They need to come here. I don't care how bad or terrible or what circumstances they're going through or how they may act at school. They're welcome here. And not every group and every church appreciates that. And so today's verse is a question we all must wrestle with in our lives. God's looking for people to go out on his behalf. Most people won't be obedient and follow through with what he wants them to do because it means a change must happen. And so, however, we need to be like Isaiah and say, here I am, send me. Because when he's saying, look, who should we go? Who's going to go out for us? Who are we going to send? It means you're going from one place to another, and that's a natural change that must take place. And so that is a challenge that we all must deal with every day in our lives. We need to be obedient no matter if it makes sense in the moment. And in the moment that things we're going through, it didn't make sense. Even though I missed full-time ministry, I'm being educated in a way that the silo of ministry kept me from seeing. I miss preparing to preach every week. I can't tell you how bad I miss preparing to preach every week. But now I'm preparing to minister every day through conversations with adults and students. And so now I'm preparing in a different way. And God's going to use this for his glory and for his good, because that's what he does. Now, I'm not sure what the Lord is calling you to do, but I ask that you be obedient. God provided for me immediately a way out of a bad situation. I mean, immediately. Even before I left the position I was in, I already had another job. Because God knew my heart, and God knew what was going on, and God saw the things that were taking place, and he protected me and got me out and provided for me even before things were officially over. He has shown me that ministry in the trenches matters more than ministry in a silo. And I keep bringing up that silo because it matters. Do I hope to serve the local church in a more formal setting again? Absolutely. I do want to serve the local church. Probably just not as a student pastor again. Again, God can do what he wants, but I just don't see that happening, and God can change my heart on that, but probably not the same way. I believe my giftedness and skills can benefit the local church. It will probably not look like normal ministry context, and I don't want it to, because I'm not a behind-the-desk person. I don't want to sit in meetings 7 million times a day or a week and go through things and have to ask permission to do ministry. That's just not my heart. That is not how God designed me to be. I need freedom to be who God's called me to be. And the more freedom I have, the more I'm able to flourish in how God has moved me. And so what I want you to get from today's reading is to be obedient and go where he has called you to go in ministry, no matter what that looks like. Because I'm still doing ministry, just not working in a local church. So it might look different for a season, or maybe for the rest of your life. I don't know how long I'll be doing this. Right now, for the foreseeable future, but I hope God opens doors and other avenues and ways for me to speak and preach and train adults and students of what good student ministry looks like. So no matter what, no God is looking for obedient servants. And that's what he was wanting for me. I had to be obedient, even though I didn't want to do it, but he had to get me out of a situation, and he had to make things terrible, and he used people to do it. And so volunteer to go wherever he sends you. Just say, hey, I'm willing to go. And that's what I did for however long he wants you in that position. He will not waste any season of your life when you are being obedient to him in your life. So don't let others define what ministry looks like for you and your calling. Then most importantly, know that God is always working, even when you might not understand the circumstances. Go out for the Lord and be an example for others. Your story matters, and people need the encouragement. And so that is my hope and prayer for you today. Go and volunteer to do what God's called you to do, and don't be blind to the circumstances that are around you that are maybe pushing you to go somewhere else. Because even though I'm not in full-time ministry in the local church setting, I'm doing full-time ministry all day, just in a different setting. And it's amazing to see the opportunities God has opened and what he has happened. But so if you're going through a situation in your life, pay attention to what's happening around you, how God will move and work in you. And so, and then how God will use bad circumstances to push you in a direction that you wouldn't go otherwise. Because if God wouldn't have allowed people to behave the way they did and do the things that they did, I wouldn't be where I am, and the opportunities I've had to impact other people wouldn't be where they are right now. And so that matters. And so on one end, I'm unhappy that I don't get to prepare and preach every week. I miss that more than you can imagine. But at the other end, I'm excited and ecstatic because I get to do ministry I wasn't able to do in the last context I was in, because the culture there that's not what they wanted. And that went against my personality. But then also I got to see what bad leadership looked like, and now what good leadership looks like, and how I want to navigate things I do, and how I want to treat people in the proper way biblically to lead, even when there's disagreements and things are going on. And I've learned more of what not to do than what to do from the last ministry setting. But now I'm seeing how to lead, and how to lead in a way that makes a kingdom impact more than it did before. And so I hope that makes sense. I'm not going to go into details of things that happened or went on, but understand I was willing to say, here I am, send me, even though in the moment it didn't make sense. But looking back a year from now, it makes complete and perfect sense of what was going on. And now things are where they need to be, and God will take care of what he needs to take care of. And so understand, if you're going through issues and you're going through trials and tribulations, God's going to work it out, as long as you're being obedient to him, and you're following him. Because I was doing everything God asked me to do, and God provided a way, and God led a way out. And so I had to be willing to say, God, here I am, send me. Tomorrow we'll be in Isaiah 9 through 12.